Hamid Karzai, the president of Afghanistan, is the guest of talk to Al Jazeera. Rebuked by the international community for failing to deliver on his promises to clamp down on corruption and stem the rise of the Taliban, Karzai is firing back. He warns the war against the Taliban is severely undermined by the string of deadly attacks against civilians. In one of his rare confession moments, he admits providing the Afghan people with security was his biggest failure.
Mr. President, thank you very much indeed for having us. Let me start by asking you, why do you think the Parliament rejected 2/3 of your cabinet choices?
Well, for a number of reasons. First reason is democracy is getting stronger. In Afghanistan, it is the Parliament's right and one of its most important functions to approve or reject the President's nomination for cabinet. The second reason was that in the last cabinet 5 years ago, I intervened personally in the Parliament on behalf of the ministers that I had nominated and campaigned for them. Those that did not get through felt as if I had not done enough campaign for them. So this time I decided to stay away.
Not to intervene?
Not intervene.
Right.
I did not intervene, and the parliamentarians came to see me before I sent them my nominations, and I told them that this time you have the full freedom to decide on who you choose, who you reject, and I will not intervene. And they went and really did that.
Exactly. Do you have an exit strategy now?
I have asked the Parliament to, in accordance with Article 107 of the Constitution, to stay during the holidays, during the recess of the Parliament, winter recess, and to work on the cabinet. I'll be sending them the remaining list of the cabinet members very, very soon, some very new, some old, for them to consider.
What if the new list is rejected once again by the Parliament?
Well, I hope it will not be the case, and I don't think it will be the case. But if the new list is again rejected by the Parliament, in full or in half or in some measure, that is Parliament's right. Constitutionally, they have the authority to do that. That also would mean for me to do more campaigning than in the Parliament for the next time to get it passed.
You don't have any concerns of a political void in the future?
No, it doesn't. It will not mean that.
There are still some cracks in your alliance with some of the warlords who backed you during the elections. For example, Junbi Shimili issued a statement saying that they are completely upset with the rejections because 3 of their candidates were in your cabinet.
They have a right to be upset. We were all upset that they were not approved, but we have to respect the Parliament's decision. It's a democracy. And they have that constitutional right to reject or accept. There's nothing we can do about it.
Some of the MPs told me the reason why they rejected your cabinet choices was because they didn't trust the government when it comes to clamping down on corruption.
There are some ministers who are very capable who are not approved, who some of the parliamentarians told me that they were very sorry about. They did not know that that will happen. So I guess to the Parliament as well, it was when they saw what came out, they were surprised, and some of them were unhappy at the result of that.
You've made many commitments in the past about the need to clamp down on corruption, but you haven't spelled out any roadmap, have you?
We have a roadmap. You see, on the question of corruption, one is the reality in Afghanistan. Like any other third world country, like any other country emerging from years of upheaval and turmoil and poverty and war and interference, and we are building up a new government, when you're trying to make it stand on its own abilities, corruption is a fact of life, and we have to fight it. And we should fight, and we are doing it. Every day there are cases that I'm signing, the judges proposed by the Supreme Court for dismissal or suspension or their reappointment and others. But there is also a perception of corruption.
Right, but let me just, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you here. Sometimes, Mr. President, you send very confusing signals to the international community. I'll give you an example. You tend to say, if anybody is convicted of corruption, he will face trial, might be sacked. But when the mayor, for example, of Kabul was facing corruption charges, he said, no, I know the man is completely innocent. Normally, you should have given the court system time to make it say.
Yes. Exactly. I agree on that. The decision on the mayor, I know. That's why I defended him, and I've paid a price for that. I defended him because I know he is a clean man. I am sure about that, 100%.
But the international community doesn't seem to be sure about these things.
The international community has its own problems.
You run a government which is beset by all allegations of corruption.
Well, one is the reality of corruption. The other one is the perception of corruption created by the Western media and certain political circles there in order to promote whatever agendas that they have in Afghanistan. So we are not going to talk about that. Let that be as it is.
So you think this is something politically motivated by the international community?
Not all of it. There is the reality of corruption in Afghanistan as it is in any other country.
Okay, let me just give you an example.
Now, let me talk about this. We are working on it, but we are at the same time seeing allegations that are not true, that are false, that are politically motivated. The Western media has blown corruption totally out of proportion in Afghanistan.
But your government says that out of the $32 billion which was supposed to have gone to your government, they received only $8 billion of it. So where has the rest gone?
The rest is spent by the donors themselves.
This is why you
insist. Not through us.
Right. This is why you insist that corruption is inflicted from abroad.
Corruption is, part of it is ours. The other part is definitely inflicted from abroad and done by abroad. We are not going to talk about that part. That is the responsibility of the donor countries, of the European and Western and American systems to handle their own corruption in Afghanistan, to handle their own mismanagement of resources in Afghanistan. We are asking them to do better because the consequences of that fall on the Afghan people and as a result for their own achievements. My responsibility is, as the Afghan president, to work on the Afghan corruption and stop it to the extent possible. And that we are doing to the maximum of our abilities within the possibilities that we have. And we should do a lot more. There is no excuse there. We cannot be excused on that. We must work.
Yeah, but when I asked you about the roadmap, I was expecting you to give me more details about the need to implement new laws, special tribunals for high officials in the government.
The roadmap is, first, improved regulations, improved procedures, improved laws that will not be time-consuming, that will not force the Afghan people to run into 30 different government offices, 30 different officers in order to get a license done. That means 30 times more chance of corruption. The second is to improve the law enforcement mechanism in the country. The third element is to bring more efficiency to the bureaucracy of Afghanistan, to make it less politically interfered in, to make it on merit-based, to make it apolitical, to have a proper civil service. The fourth mechanism is to have a better cooperation and understanding with the international community, the way they function in Afghanistan, the way they offer contracts, the way they do the contractual mechanisms and the related activities to it. There are 3-4 layers of contracts. There are contracts that are given to people without the knowledge of any other source in Afghanistan.
Are you going to the crucial London conference set in the end of this month with or without a government?
With a government. We have government.
You have a caretaker government, which people don't trust, internationally speaking. So how can you convince the international community if you go with a caretaker government asking?
It's a government. It's the president, there's a parliament, There's a judicial body, the Supreme Court. There are ministries that are functioning. There are deputy ministers. There are ministers authorized to function. So with regard to functioning of the government, there is no problem.
Are you going to ask for more cash and weapons?
No, we're not going to ask for more cash. We are going to ask the international community to end nighttime raids on Afghan homes. We are going to ask them to stop arresting Afghans. We are going to ask them to reduce and eliminate civilian casualties. We are going to ask them not to have Afghan prisoners taken. Those are the most sensitive areas of sovereignty for any nation, and we want to have that sovereignty retained and taken back.
Time for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk with the President of Afghanistan, Mr. Hamid Karzai, about the future of his country.